Nature isn't just out there in some far-off exotic location. It's all around us, including right outside our doors. Hi, my name is Shannon Trimboli, and I am the host of Backyard Ecology. I invite you to join us as we ignite our curiosity and natural wonder, explore our yards and communities, and improve our local pollinator and wildlife habitat. Hi, everyone. Before we get started, I wanted to thank all of my supporters on Patreon. Their monthly donations help make Backyard Ecology possible. If you would like to join them, please visit my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/backyardecology. Also, if you would like more Backyard Ecology, please check out my blog. The blog profiles common native plants, spotlights pollinators and wildlife that you are likely to see around your home, and offers tips for attracting pollinators and wildlife to your yard. To make sure that you don't miss out on any of the blogs, podcasts, or other Backyard Ecology news, I send a free Backyard Ecology email once a week to anyone who has subscribed to the email list. I'll have links in the show notes for the Backyard Ecology Patreon page, blog, and email list. I also want to say a special thank you to everyone who participated in my recent survey about this podcast. I received some great feedback and will likely be implementing some of the suggestions over the next several months. All of the winners of the drawing have been notified, and their copies of my latest book are in the mail. I'm super excited about today's podcast episode. We are joined by my husband, Anthony. Anthony has been on the podcast a few times, so you may remember that he is also a wildlife biologist and educator, and that he frequently helps me with the nursery and habitat consulting work that I do. We have an exciting announcement that we can't wait to share with you. Plus, we'll be sharing some of the many things that you can be doing or observing in your yard at this time of year. Hi, Anthony. Welcome to Backyard Ecology. Thanks for talking with us today.
Hi, glad to be back.
And I am so excited about today and talking with you because we have got a super fun announcement to make. It's something that I've been wanting to do since we started Backyard Ecology almost a year and a half ago now. It's hard to believe it's been that long, and I've been thinking about it for almost 2 years. But yeah, let's just jump right in and get to it. You want to tell them, or you want me to?
I'll go ahead and tell them. The big announcement is YouTube channel.
Yes, we are starting a YouTube channel. And this is separate from the YouTube channel that's got the podcast going on it, because YouTube algorithms do not like all audio, which is what the podcast channel is. So we've started an actual Backyard Ecology YouTube channel that is going to have all kinds of fun videos in it and just everything that people have been wanting, that we've been wanting, that I've been wanting from the beginning, really.
Right now, we've just started out. I've put some videos on there, kind of testing the waters so I can figure out what's going on, because I'm the one doing most of the YouTube side of things. So there's a few trail cam compilations on there that have been received very well, and a lot of very fun short videos right now. And this week I am hoping to get up some plant profiles and maybe some pollinator profiles to kick things off. It's pollinator week, so it should be pollinator centered. So I'm gonna try to get that stuff up.
Yes, like Anthony said, he's going to be the one kind of taking the lead with the YouTube channel. It's something that I've been wanting to do, like I said, from the very beginning. And I actually debated when I was first planning Backyard Ecology whether I was going to start the podcast first or the YouTube channel first. And I really wanted the YouTube channel, but I knew that I could learn how to edit and do the audio faster than I could do the audio plus the visual, which is a YouTube channel with the videos. So I went the podcast route first. And with everything else I've got going on right now, there's no way I can also add a YouTube channel. But Anthony's wanting to do more of it. It's something that he's always been interested in as well. So we're going to let him take the lead on it. I will be appearing some in it, just like he comes over and helps with the podcast some. But it's going to be a lot of Anthony on the YouTube channel.
So if anybody wants a particular topic covered, please feel free to reach out. Let us know. Got a lot of ideas right now, but always good to know what people are thinking and what they want to know about.
Yes, exactly. So like some of the stuff that Anthony and I are talking about, like you said, profiles of pollinators, profiles of plants, profiles of different critters that we find on the farm, whether or not they're pollinators, trail cam videos, little fun short things. They're just fun facts and weird fun stuff. You'll get a little bit of insight into Anthony's humor with some of it and just all kinds of stuff like that. Also, we're going to be doing a lot of habitat work and planting, landscaping and stuff. There's a lot that we've been wanting to do on our farm and on our property and the basic landscaping around the house that we just haven't gotten to yet. And we're starting to move more in that direction. And so we're going to film it and share that with you guys. So you're going to see our mistakes, our successes, see how it happens as we do it. You'll get to live through part of it with us.
Yeah, there will be some, definitely be some invasive species identification and control videos on there as we go along for sure. We got a tractor, so you're going to see some more habitat work done with that, just because, not that everybody has one, but for those that do, handy tool. And you can always downsize those projects for things that don't require it also.
And then, like I said, we've got projects that we're wanting to do around the house. The house has very little landscaping around it. And just with everything else happening in life, I haven't gotten to do anything that I wanted to do with it in the years. I've always had these big plans, but getting to it and making that time hasn't happened as much. So that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to doing, starting a little bit already, but mostly this fall and into next spring is a lot of what we're planning on doing and stuff. So those basic landscaping projects, I mean, around the house, that's something anybody can do as well. So we'll be having a lot of those as well, so that we have both the larger property and also the smaller property pieces on there.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of prep work around the house. So if you're starting out with just lawn, or even more like what we have, weeds, you can learn how to turn that into a native planting and pollinator habitat. Because we're starting with what we're starting with is really rough. That's the best word for it, rough.
Yeah,
You'll
rough.
see it, you'll see in the videos, it is rough.
Yes. We're really pulling back the curtain and you're going to see, yeah, kind of life as it is, which is definitely not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And even the garden beds that I did put in when we first moved here, I didn't know as much as I do now. We're always learning, and I made some pretty good mistakes on them. And you're going to get to see them probably sooner rather than later and get to learn. Yeah, this is why we say don't do this, because I've got two garden, well, depending on how you count it, either one or two garden beds, it's kind of coming out of a walkout basement and there's a sidewalk. So whether you count each side of the sidewalk as a garden bed making two, or the whole thing as a garden bed being one larger one, yeah, that whole thing eventually is going to have to be dug out and redone from scratch. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
It's a jungle.
Yes.
To put it bluntly, it's a jungle. It's over my head. It's a jungle.
Yeah, not what you want right up next to the house, but it's beautiful when certain plants are in bloom. But
oh yeah, it's all native plants in there. They look awesome. They attract a ton of pollinators, but it's a little much right up on the house. It's thick.
Yeah. And they've both turned into two different, almost monocultures, not quite, but almost monocultures of two different very aggressive plants. Not what should have been planted in those small spaces, but I thought I could get away with one or two, and sure, I could keep it in check. No, there's a reason why we say some of these are aggressive. So you'll get to see and maybe learn from somewhat, like I said, some of the mistakes we've made.
One of them's beyond aggressive. One of them is more like I don't know. It's insane how fast it's taken over.
It's out competing Johnson grass in certain areas, if that tells people anything. But yeah, that's all for future YouTube videos, and you'll get to see it.
Yeah, and like I said, there's some trail cam compilations on there right now, and if you like wildlife, you'll like the trail cam compilations. Anybody that's doing habitat work, I don't care if it's in a urban yard or on a 100-acre farm or anything in between, you really owe it to yourself to get yourself a trail cam. And I will probably have a few videos about that because it's nice to know what's using your habitat that you've worked so hard to work on. You know what's out there when you're awake and the things that you can see easily, but you would be shocked at some of the stuff that shows up right next to your house when it is dark outside. I've got a camera right now on our driveway, and the animals that approach it in the middle of the night, it's quite amazing what's right up here in the yard. I mean, where we walk every day doesn't phase them a bit.
Exactly. And I mean, even in town, everybody is amazed how much wildlife is actually there when you put a trail camera out. I mean, you may have heard me talk about this before. I think I've mentioned it before on some of the other podcast episodes. When we were in college, the best places to find red foxes was in the middle of the college town where all the old houses were. That's where the red foxes were. We were playing in the yard about 10, 11 o'clock at night. And you could just drive through that part of town and see all the red foxes. It was better than going out to the natural areas an hour and a half away because you just didn't see the red foxes there as much. So there's a lot of really cool things. Like I said, even in urban, suburban areas.
Yeah, I mean, we don't live in the city by any stretch, but there are a lot of people around our area. There's a lot of traffic, and there's a ton of critters. And it's nothing to see a bobcat, get them on the trail cam frequently, and within 50 to 100 yards of houses, definitely closer than that to the road. Coyotes, foxes, you name it, it's out there right up next to the houses. They don't care. They know there's people. People are not wandering around at 3 o'clock in the morning, usually.
Yes. And the behaviors that you get, because we have trail cameras that record video, the behaviors are really quite interesting, especially one on, was it the first trail cam compilation that you posted that has the really cool one?
Oh yeah, yeah. The kind of mad possum
Uh-huh. The one that
in
does.
in the thing that he's chasing in a circle.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm not gonna give it away, but yeah, it's I have no clue what was going through that possum's mind, but it seems to be the most popular clip out of that because people keep going back and rewatching it. There's a big spike on the watch graph when I look at the analytics, and it's right there at that spot. So that's the thing people like on that video. It
Yes.
is weird. I don't know what it was doing.
It is exactly opposite of what you would think would be happening. So yes, if you're listening to this, go watch the first trail cam compilation that we posted on the YouTube channel.
It's spring hole trail cam.
Spring Hole Trail Cam. I couldn't remember what you named it, but that one's worth watching. It's what, about halfway through?
um yeah, it's maybe 3/4 of the way through. It's in the
Yeah.
second half of the video. Watch the whole video if you like critters. It's a camera that's set up over a spring hole on our farm, and I think I counted 18 species on it. And I think after I posted it, I watched it again and I saw another species on it that I hadn't counted the first time. So there's all kinds of stuff on that video.
Yes. Go watch it. You'll enjoy it and you will laugh and just kind of shake your head and go, what in the world is that possum thinking at one point in it?
And you can see neighbors' houses in that video, and you can see our barn in that video. And our house is within maybe 100 yards of where that camera was. And we're through that area frequently. And the amount of wildlife that still travels that spot, it doesn't seem to bother them at all. They learn when you're there and when you're not.
So yeah, we've got lots of fun things already on there. We kind of, like Anthony was saying, we did a soft launch of it about a week or so ago, just to give him a chance to get his feet under him, figure out what's going on and how to do this. He's still learning, we're both still learning. Anthony, especially since, like I said, he's taken the lead on this, but I'm really, really, really excited to finally have the YouTube channel up and going, and excited to see where Anthony can take this and to be working with him on this one.
No pressure.
No pressure at all here. So yeah, we're going to be trying to do a lot of that. But the other thing that we wanted to do with this podcast episode was kind of share some tips and things to be thinking about right now, because as we're recording this, it's late June 2022, and it's hot. It's suddenly turned very hot, very humid, and it's summertime. And it went from nice temperatures to basically what we usually get in July, overnight, basically. And it's hot. It's starting to get into the time when it's like, do I really want to go outside and do anything? Because it's so miserable, especially during the heat of the day. But there's still a lot of things that we can do outside. And so Anthony and I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that we can be doing now, some of the things to be watching for, because there's a lot of really fun stuff happening outside right now, and things that we can all see and observe as well.
Yeah, right now, the big one with the heat is watering. So if you have plants that are newly planted this year, and I would include any trees, shrubs that were planted in the wintertime or even last fall, they're not going to be well established yet. You're going to have to watch them. You really need to get water on them. Try to water either early in the morning before the sun gets up so that water can get off the leaves so it doesn't cook them, or in the evening. If you do it in the evening, you want to definitely water down low to the ground. You don't want to soak them right before it gets cool at night, because you're going to invite fungal infections then. You don't want those plants going into the night wet. So you are going to want to water basically the times when you're going to want to be outside. Early in the morning, right before sunset, or at sunset when the sun's not up in the sky cooking you. We have a nursery. I've been running ragged keeping things watered, and it's been a race, because I'll get things watered, I'll think everything's good, I'll go out there, after dinner, and it's like, I still got to water again. Some plants are a lot tougher. They can take it. Their root system is fibrous and able to absorb a lot more moisture. Some of the things that just have a big tap root and don't have a lot of side roots, they will wilt fast unless they're in the ground, or they can get that tap root down deep enough where they're getting moisture out of a deeper layer of the ground. This is nasty weather for plants. I used to work at a commercial greenhouse in Anderson, South Carolina. It was super hot, super humid all the time, and we watered all day long. That's all we did. I worked in the actual greenhouse part, so it was nothing to go out there and just water all day. And then I'd get sent outside to water all the plants that they had set out to harden off before they went to the big box stores. And I'd have a watering wand and I would just soak plants all day. And then when I got to the end of it, I'd go back to where I started and soak plants again. That's kind of the weather we're having now. It's rough. If you have to get out there during the hot time of the day, just set them in a pan of water. It's about all you can do. You're not going to be able to water them from the top at all. If you can get them in a pan of water anyway, it's the best way to go. Bottom water, let it soak in, keep water in that pan. Hopefully this weather breaks in the near future and we can get a break from this. But even these 2 days where it cooled off here over the weekend, the wind was blowing and it was still warm enough. It was just pulling the moisture out of those plants and out of the substrate, and lots of watering. It has not been fun.
Yeah. So if you've got plants in pots, you're going to have to water a whole lot more than if they're in the ground. But even plants in the ground, even native plants. I mean, I know we always say that native plants are adapted to our crazy weather and they don't need as much water. That's if they're well established. But that first year, they need water. They're still trying to get those roots down and get established. If you planted them last fall, last winter, then they're better established than if you planted them a month or two ago. But they're still not fully well established. That first year, you have to baby them a little bit, not maybe as much as some other plants, but you still have to give them a lot more care than you would if they'd been there 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, another thing when it gets hot like this, even in the summer normally, is don't set plants in pots, especially if they're in black pots on an asphalt driveway, a concrete driveway, anything that absorbs heat, because you will cook the roots on the outer edges of the pot. When you pull a plant out of a pot like that, the roots should be bright white. They should look beautiful. A lot of times when you pull them out of those pots, if they've been sitting on asphalt, those roots are brown and they break really easily. That's because they're dead. They've been cooked. So you've reduced the root system of that plant. And if he keeps doing it, it will kill the plant. So set them on grass or on some landscape fabric, something that is not going to get, 200 degrees while it's cooking in the sun, because it literally will cook them in the pot. It's a big problem. A lot of stores put their trees and stuff that are in pots right out there on the asphalt because it's handy. It's not good for them. So if you buy plants now and you don't want to put them in the ground yet because it's 100 degrees out during the day, set them in a partially shady area. They will be fine. They will take less water that way. And then we get a break, get them in the ground. Once they're in the ground, they'll hold water better too. They won't dry out as fast, but they still need to be watered, especially because you still have that potting substrate around the roots. It's going to dry out faster than the soil around it. So that plant, even if it's rained recently and it gets warm again and the ground is wet, where that substrate is around the plant can dry out and your plant still dies from being too dry, even though the soil is wet. So just keep that in mind. I don't recommend trying to remove all that substrate from around the roots so that you have soil all around it, because those roots are happy in that. They're not disturbed. You're gonna have less transplant shock if you just stick that whole plug in the ground. Just make sure you keep it watered.
And if you're planting at this time of the year, I recommend doing it in the evening is when I like to do it, because that way the temperatures are cooling off. It's got the night to kind of acclimate, early morning to acclimate before it starts getting into those super hot midday temperatures. You can do it in the first thing in the morning, but then you get those super hot midday temperatures even faster. It doesn't have those extra hours of the night to kind of minimize a little bit that transplant shock with that extra heat. But you might want to think about keeping them in pots, and it's just a matter of what do you think you can do best? Can you get them in the morning or get them planted in the evening and give them that extra water there? Or is it better to keep them in the pot, and can you keep that extra water, because it's going to need even more extra water in the pot than if you had it in the ground. So it's really up to you as to what's going to be easiest for you to be able to take care of there. And like Anthony said, putting pots into a tray of water at this time of the year is a really great way to help keep the plants watered. The one caution that you want to have with that is that you don't want to leave them sitting in the water all the time. For one reason, the mosquitoes will find it and they'll start laying eggs in that water, and you'll have a mosquito nursery there. So you want to give them enough water that the plants will soak it all up, but you don't have standing water for a week at a time, no more than a day or so. Let it dry out and then keep doing that, and you should be okay with the mosquitoes.
Yeah, right now I fill a tray up. It's dry in 2 hours. You can't even tell I poured water in it. The substrate in the pots is dark, which means it's wet. The pots are heavy. They've soaked up what they can. Everything else is evaporated. It doesn't take long at all. So right now you don't have a problem with that. I water everything in the nursery in a pan, because if I didn't, there's no way I would ever sleep. I would be down there watering 24/7. So it works well. In this weather, you usually don't have a problem with the water standing. In the spring and in the fall, when you're getting rain, especially if they're out in the open, they're not undercover in a greenhouse, those trays can fill up and you can end up with problems. Some of the plants do not like that, period, and they will let you know. They'll turn yellow pretty quick. But right now, you're not going to have to worry about it.
Yeah. But it is something to keep in mind and make sure you're not having issues with, because if it's a little rainier someplace else, or maybe slightly different temperatures, especially as we come out of the summer and go more into fall, if people are listening to it then, it's just one of those things that you do want to watch and see what's happening in your own area with that.
Yeah, and by tray, I'm talking something that's maybe 2-3 inches deep. You don't need a whole lot of water. I use nursery trays. They're approximately 3 inches deep, 2.5, 3 inches deep. So, you don't have to, even if you have something deeper than that, you can use it. You just don't have to put a whole lot of water in it. It doesn't take much. If it all gets sucked up by the plants and the substrate on top still looks dry, put more water in there. That's all you have to do. I soak them until everything is soaked and that pot is heavy.
And other things that are really fun to do at this time of the year is watch your plants for caterpillars, because there are tons of caterpillars showing up. With this being June, end of June in Kentucky, and this is going to vary a little bit depending on where you're at, but in Kentucky, we're kind of between flight patterns right now with the butterflies. So we're seeing a lot more caterpillars right now than we are actual butterflies, at least around our house. And yes, we're finding all kinds of cool caterpillars right now.
Yeah, lots of spice bush, swallowtail caterpillars on the spice bush in the nursery. And I just put a YouTube short up actually about leaf tacos. So if you go to the Backyard Ecology YouTube channel and look at leaf tacos, it is about spice bush swallowtail caterpillars. They're kind of cool. They're probably one of the more awesome looking caterpillars out there. They're just, I don't know, they kind of look like a Pokemon. They're weird.
In the later stages, yes. The very first stage, the very first instar, does not look like a Pokemon at all. Yeah, you have to watch the YouTube videos to find out what they look like at that first instar.
But they change as they develop. So, they're kind of like Pokemon still.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But seeing quite a few of those. I saw Fritterly laying eggs the other day, and I have been watching for caterpillars. I have not seen any yet. I know they will be there. I know I will find them when the plant is totally defoliated. It's the way it always goes. I never see them. The next thing I know, the whole plant's defoliated. I don't know what they do up to that point. Yeah. It's like they're not there, and the next thing you see, they're big, huge caterpillars, and there's no leaves left. So
we also saw about, I don't know, a week or so ago, one of the punctuation butterflies laying eggs as well, which when I say punctuation butterfly, it was either a question mark or a comma. I'm not sure which it was. I didn't get a good enough view of it. I know it was one of those two. So I just kind of lump them all together and call them punctuation butterflies until I know which is which. But yeah, we watched it laying eggs on one of our elm trees. And so we're waiting for the caterpillars to show up there as well.
I haven't seen any caterpillars on purple coneflower yet, but it's time. And I'm sure I'll start finding defoliated purple coneflower. I have not seen any monarch caterpillars yet, which kind of surprises me. But I haven't seen any milkweed tussock moth caterpillars yet either. And usually I see them both show up about the same time. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, so all kinds of fun caterpillars to look for. One thing that people love to do, I know, at this time of the year is feed the hummingbirds. So right now, especially in this heat, you've got to keep on top of your hummingbird feeders. If the water is starting to look even the least little bit cloudy, you want to make sure you change that. And in this heat, I would be changing it every other day. Don't fill up the feeders if the birds aren't using that much sugar water right now, and they may not, depending on how many birds you've got in the area, be using that much right now. Then don't fill up your feeder. Just put a little bit in there. Change it like every other day, maybe even every day. As soon as it starts to get cloudy, you want to wash your feeder very well. All the little ports too. Don't let that black mold and gunk build up in there. That can make the birds sick. And if you're not seeing hummingbirds at your feeder right now, don't worry about it, because right now they're going to be on the nests a lot. And if you listen to the podcast episode that I did a few months ago with Cindy, then you know that she was saying that hummingbirds, when they're nesting, actively nesting, they don't come to the feeders as much. They're going to the native plants more, and they're eating the bugs, the little bitty bugs that are around the native plants, as well as the nectar. They actually prefer the nectar of the native plants more than they do the sugar water. They'll use it, but not as much. So if you're not seeing as many hummingbirds as you would like at this time of the year, plant more native plants, and those are your natural bird feeders.
Yeah, I noticed our bee balm's getting ready to bloom spectacularly. So I have a feeling we'll start seeing a few more hummingbirds once that starts coming on.
Oh yeah, I am sure. Because I know we've got at least one nest around the house, because I was seeing the female frequently up until about a week or two ago. And then now she's I haven't seen her as much, but I know she's still around. So I know as soon as that bee balm starts to bloom, she'll be there.
Yeah, it is also the time of year when you start seeing all kinds of baby critters running around. Saw the first fawn on the farm yesterday, and it was tiny. So it has to be a fairly recent one. I knew the doe had it stashed. I would bump her every time I'd go outside to work in the nursery. And she had this thing right up next to the house. They know they're pretty safe up next to the house. She'd kind of blow at me when I'd go out there. I knew she had one somewhere, but I never saw it. And then last night they were walking through the backyard, and then I saw them again this morning walking through the backyard. So I'm pretty sure she's still got it stashed back behind our beehive somewhere.
And we also knew that she had the fawn because we saw her on trail camera. And you could tell she had a fawn. Didn't see the fawn, but you could tell she
Yeah.
was full of milk.
Yeah. Her udder was pretty distended for a deer. I mean, they're not like a cow or a goat, but you could definitely tell she had milk in the udder. So, and she looked kind of rough. Usually if they've had a fawn, they don't look the slickest. They're kind of beat up. She'll look a lot rougher before the summer's over.
But yeah, so we've been watching because we knew we had a fawn nearby, just from behavior, both like Anthony was saying, every time we went out the door, and then also from what we saw on the trail camera. But yes, it was so much fun to actually see the fawn last night.
Yeah, haven't seen any turkey poults yet, but that doesn't surprise me. Usually don't until like July. I start seeing them. Have seen some young red-shouldered hawks that fledged out of a nest up by our garage, and getting ready to see some baby phoebes probably off the front porch. And I heard some baby raccoons. I did not see them, but I could hear them chittering at each other. I could tell they were young ones, but it's that time of year. If you see baby animals, please leave them be. They have not been abandoned. Their parents need to go hunt or need to go eat so they can provide for their young. They don't take their little babies with them when they're doing that, because if you're a fox or a coyote, baby foxes and coyotes are going to ruin your chances of getting food. And if you're a doe deer, she would rather be able to eat and not have to worry about watching a young one, plus trying to watch for predators for her. She just needs to worry about herself when she's out there until that baby's big enough that it can actually run and escape. They're mobile from the get-go, but they are not quick and they are not very coordinated. So, which is why people pick them up. Please don't do that. That mother is out there, and I hate to say it, but if she is close enough when you grab that baby and sees it, you're gonna wish you hadn't. I know deer look like they couldn't hurt you. Trust me, their hooves are like little knives, and they can do a whole lot of damage to you. Baby rabbits, you find a nest of baby rabbits, just leave them be. That mom's around too. Baby birds, same thing. If it fell out of the nest and it doesn't have feathers, or it has very few feathers and it's not supposed to be out of the nest, you can pick it up and put it back. They won't abandon it. Birds have like zero sense of smell unless it's a vulture. It's not gonna know you touched that baby. It's just not. So don't worry about it. Just pick it up, put it back in there, step back and watch. They'll come feed it. That's my quick and easy advice on baby animals. Just leave them be.
Right. Yeah, I hear all the time stories of people trying to help and it's not helping. Like Anthony said, the mothers are there. They'll come back. The fawn or whatever we're talking about was not abandoned. Another fun thing that I really love doing at this time of the year is going out shortly after sunset and that first hour or two after sunset and watching the fireflies, because they are going crazy at this time of the year. And I know when I was a kid, I always thought that there were lightning bugs, fireflies. There was only one species. And I've learned since that no, there are tons of different species of them. And in Lynn Faust's book, Lightning Bugs, Fireflies, and Glowworms, she goes through and talks about all the different types that there are and talks about how you can tell the difference between the different flash patterns and times of year and times of night that they come out at and the colors of the flashes. And I was emailing her about some things not too long ago, and she was telling me that every 2-3 weeks or so at this time of year, we're getting different species, even if they seem to be the same ones. So we're all probably familiar with the ones that fly around our yards and that we caught as kids, or maybe the kids in our lives catch now. And those are usually called Big Dippers. That's the common name for them. And if you pay attention to their flash pattern, they'll come on and then they stay on as they kind of trace the outline of a J or of a fish hook. And those are, like I said, the common names Big Dipper. Then there's others that if you start paying attention to, you might see up in the treetops. And they just make the trees kind of sparkle and twinkle. And there's a lot of different species that do that. And those species will change up throughout the spring and summer. And you'll get different species, but there'll always be kind of these twinkly lights in the trees. Then there's others that fly at different heights and do different flash patterns. There's ones that will be like in tall grass and kind of make the tops of the tall grass all twinkly. And there's a few that I'm starting to learn the common names on because I've just gotten really fascinated by them. But I'm still at the stage where most of them are just oohing and awing over the pretty twinkly, flashy lights. And it's perfectly fine to just go out and enjoy the light show without having to worry about, ooh, what species is that? Or what species is this? But at the same time, if you do want to take it deeper and try and learn more, you can. But I still just think it's fascinating to realize that there are lots of different species out there, a lot more than I ever dreamed that there would be, and that they change so frequently.
Yeah, they're pretty impressive right now. I like the ones up in the trees. They're bright. They are very bright. If you go out there, if you get someplace where there's not street lights, and if the moon is out, I mean, they're bright. when they light up. The ones in your yard just kind of light up. It's just kind of a nice yellow, soft glow. A lot of the ones we've been seeing in the trees, they look like a little miniature flash bulb going off. They're quite bright, kind of a greenish, whitish, yellow color. It's different. It's got more of a green tint to it.
And some of that tint and the coloration is going to depend on different people's eyes, and older eyes versus younger eyes. And yeah, there's a lot of variation in how each of us see even the flash patterns, but oh my gosh, they are amazing. And while most of your fireflies, you're going to see that first hour to 2 hours or so after it gets dark, there's been a few times when we've woken up in the middle of the night and looked out the window, and wow, it's just amazing how bright they are at that time too. But then, like Anthony said, not having a street light really helps with that.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot during the day too. Obviously not lighting up, but they are hanging out all over the milkweed. When I go look at the milkweed, I see a lot of fireflies, and it's not one species. There's been 2 or 3 different ones. I can tell they're different species because they're different sizes, and the little pattern on their head is different for sure. They are definitely, not saying their antenna look different, but yeah, they like getting on that milkweed too. I don't know. I don't know what they're looking for on it, or if they're just hanging out on it because it's a good place to perch, but they're there.
That's one of the things that's Lynn was telling me when she was on one of the early episodes, is that they've been noticing that for the past several years, that yes, many species of lightning bugs seem to be getting on milkweed at a certain time of the bloom pattern for the milkweed, a certain part of the phenology. And nobody's 100% sure why or what's going on there. There's some similarities, she was saying, between some of the defense chemicals of the milkweed and some of the defense chemicals and some of the fireflies. So are the fireflies getting part of those defense chemicals from the milkweed, or is it just coincident? Or yeah, that's a question that is very fascinating right now.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I see them on there. I see a lot of them on there. It's not like it's just 1 or 2. There's quite a few of them on there. And I don't know if anybody's ever smelled a firefly, but they definitely have a distinctive smell to them. And it seems like, I don't know, it's probably mostly big dippers, but because that's what you can catch the easiest. But it seems like I've caught some big ones that flashed green that they still had that same smell. And I don't know if that smell is coming from their bioluminescence, or if that's part of what makes them taste bad. I know things don't like to eat them. If you throw on, when I was a kid, we had pet toads. You feed a lightning bug to a pet toad, it's kind of cool for a few seconds. He eats the lightning bug, his stomach lights up, and the next thing you know, he's spitting it back out. They do not like them. So there's definitely something on them. They do not like to eat. And I don't know, they kind of smell like a milkweed leaf if you smush it up. So maybe there's something there.
Maybe. I don't smell it like that. But then, I mean, smells are subjective. And I don't smell the leaves of the milkweed as much as I like smelling the flowers. So I always think of milkweed smell as being that vanilla scent of the milkweed flowers.
No, they smell like latex when you smush them up. That's kind of what they smell like, but not the same. But definitely it kind of has that kind of smell to it. I smell all plants. I smash them all up and smell them. I taste quite a few of them too.
But not the milkweed.
I probably would. Yeah, it's not going to kill you. Biologists are weird. We do weird stuff.
Yes, but I'm a biologist too. I'm not that weird. But yes, I'm like you. I smell most things. I mean, I'm always crushing up the leaves and feeling the leaves and smelling them. Yes. People who go out in the woods with me often have leaves shoved up underneath their nose going, here, smell this, because that's sometimes the best way to tell what the species is or to really learn what it is.
On some of them, it's about the only way. I mean, there's a few out there that they look pretty mundane, but you smell it and it's like, oh yeah, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if somebody just brings you a leaf. I mean, it's pretty tough, especially when it's just a simple leaf that's shaped like a lemon and has no teeth on it. It's like, yeah, it's a plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your standard leaf shaped leaf.
Mm-hmm. Black gum.
Uh-huh. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on outside right now that are really amazing and fun to get out and do. And you can still get out and do habitat management work or landscaping work and create those pollinator habitats. You have to think about the weather and both make sure you're taking care of the plants because they're going to need a little bit of extra care at this time of the year, but also make sure that you're taking care of yourself too, because it is very, very easy to overheat and dehydrate at this time of the year being outside. It just is. And some of us are much more susceptible than others to that. But no matter how susceptible you are, you still have to be careful, especially with our heat indexes getting into 100 plus temperature range.
And oppressive humidity. So that high humidity, I mean, you're soaking wet and you think, hey, I'm still sweating, so I don't need to drink anything. I'm good. I'm not dehydrated. In this kind of heat, you're going to be wet no matter what because the humidity is 100%. So the sweat you're putting out isn't evaporating. So you're always going to feel soaking wet. Be sure you're drinking. I mean, you almost have to be on about a liter an hour in this kind of weather,
If
especially
you're
if you're
out
out.
doing anything.
Yeah, if you're out there working in it, or you are running the risk of heat exhaustion, which isn't fun, and heat stroke, which is definitely not good. I've been around people that have had both, and it's not pretty and it's not fun. And heat stroke, it's a trip to the hospital. Heat exhaustion, you probably, if it's bad enough, you're going to be begging to go to the hospital. You don't want to get there, so make sure you hydrate. And I try to keep from going out in the middle of the day. Once it gets up around 10 o'clock to 2, 3 o'clock, I try to find something to do inside at that time. It's just horrible when it's 100 degrees outside. If you have to be out there, I mean, you have to do what you have to do, but I try to work outside from when the sun comes up till maybe 10 o'clock. And even this past week, it was too hot by 9. It was just horrible. The pollen count is super high right now. Combined with the heat, allergies are bad. You could probably hear it in my voice. My throat is it's just dry. All the antihistamines in the world are not curing it. I mean, it's bad, but I like plants, so I'm out there in them every day.
So yeah, you have to make sure you take care of yourself as well with it. But so much stuff that you can be doing out there and just watching all the cool critters, enjoying the plants. Definitely want to get out there and still do what you can. Just take care of yourself as you're doing it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you have a water source out for a wildlife, a bird bath, or a little pond in your yard, make sure it doesn't go dry right now. Make sure it's got water in it, because people don't think about it, but that might be the only water source that's easily available for a couple 100 yards, 300 yards. There's a lot of little critters out there that that's their entire home range or less. So that might be the only place they can get liquid water. Make sure it stays full. They're not going to be able to go wander off and find something else.
Yeah.
Especially some of our small pollinators, they have tiny little home ranges, and toads and things like that. They don't have a huge home range. So make sure you keep them watered up.
Yeah. So thinking about that, if you've got an area where you can have different depths or different watering spots targeted to different types of critters, that could be very helpful, because like birds, you might want to have a couple of inches of water so they can kind of splash around and bathe and cool off. Same thing with frogs and toads, inch or two water, they can kind of get down in there. But for our pollinators and for the insects, unless they're an aquatic insect, they can't swim. So an inch or two of water, if they fall in, they could easily drown. So with that, you might want to have an area where you have maybe a bunch of rocks in the water where they can land on the rocks and have a nice solid surface there that they can stand on and get the water from without having to get anywhere near the actual deep water where they could potentially drown.
Yeah, we've got a creek and it's got a rocky area in it that stays pretty shallow. It gets covered in bees of all varieties and other insects, and even herps. You'll see toads and things down there occasionally. Another thing you can do is if you have a spot of just wet mud, wet soil, a lot of pollinators and insects, butterflies will use that. You can have a part of it with just water. You can, I don't even know if I should say it, but you can pee on part of it. Butterflies love it. Some of the best butterfly areas I have are along creeks where there's otter toilets. They are covered in butterflies. I have seen 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9 species of butterfly on otter toilets at one time. Butterflies are weird. All right. They don't all go to flowers. All right. There are some that just go to waste products of mammals. Let's just leave it that way.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Butterflies go to lots and lots of places that you would not think that they would go to, whether that is bodily waste products of animals, scat and stuff like that, or even some go to dead carcasses, which, no, when you're doing a pollinator garden or a butterfly garden, I don't suggest including roadkill in your pollinator garden. That might make your neighbors pretty upset. Get some really cool, interesting bugs off of it, but probably not going to make you very popular with the neighbors.
Carcasses have some of the most beautiful beetles out there on them. And not to mention, at the end of it all, you get some awesome bones to do, crafts with. So win-win.
Yeah. And did we mention biologists were a little weird here? But so, yeah, there's lots of things that you can be doing right now, lots of things to be exploring and observing. And we hope to cover a lot of those things on the YouTube channel, which we will have links to in the show notes. Please, 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 please go look at it, watch them, share the videos with your friends, others that you think would be interested in this sort of thing. We're starting out with it, so let us know what you are interested in. Give us time. It's going to take us a while to build up on it, but we're both really excited about it. And definitely let us know what you like to see more of. And yeah, anything else you want to add, Anthony?
I was just going to say that is an excellent middle of the day activity.
Yes.
Recharge inside while watching the Backyard Ecology YouTube channel. Yep, exactly.
Yes. Maybe eat a bowl of ice cream. Ice cream's always good.
Yes, most definitely.
So yeah, thanks, Anthony, for being on here again. And I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I don't think I'm getting rid of you anytime soon, especially since you started the YouTube channel now. I guess I'm stuck with you.
Yeah, it looks that way.
Yep. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. No problem.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm so excited about the Backyard Ecology YouTube channel. Like I said, this is something that I've wanted to do from the very beginning, but knew I had to pace myself and that I couldn't do everything. I really appreciate Anthony making it happen, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I hope you enjoy it too. I'll have links in the show notes to the new YouTube channel, as well as several other resources that relate to the things that we talked about in today's episode. Before I wrap this up, I just wanted to remind you to please check out the new Backyard Ecology YouTube channel. And while you're there, don't forget to like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. Until next week, I encourage you to take some time to enjoy the nature in your own yard and community.